If you're still in a place where you are coping instead of healing from the trauma or the wounds of the past, it is almost impossible. As a matter of fact, clear that up. It is impossible not to project your own insecurities onto the person that you end up in a relationship with. That's just straight up, that's the fact. If you are in a place where you are still deeply wounded and you're not doing that emotional healing work to overcome and transcend that, if you're not doing the work to forgive yourself and forgive others, to come to acceptance and letting go of the past, if you're not in that process and doing it intentionally, and I say that with intent, if you're not doing it intentionally, because it's not going to happen by happenstance, it's not going to happen by accident, right? It's not a default setting within the human mind to just reset. You have to be doing the internal work. If you're not doing that work, the most important work in life, you are going to project insecurities into your relationship. Now, how this oftentimes shows up is in a few spaces, but I'm gonna cover a few and they're gonna give you the entire picture. So one is if you have an insecurity of, let's say, being abandoned or being left. So let's say you believe that you're going to be left by the people around you or left by the person that you love, the person that you're in a relationship with. If that is the insecurity, then every time that person, let's say, doesn't text you back the same time they text you back before, you'll be thinking to yourself, here we go. I knew they fell out of love with me. I knew they never loved me. Something's going on. There's somebody else in the picture, and you'll start to create internal paranoia, or you'll start to perpetuate the internal paranoia. Because if you're in a place of insecurity, you're already living in paranoia anyway, even when you're not in a relationship. So it just becomes magnified when you are in an intimate relationship. So again, if you're insecure, you feel like you're going to be left, they don't text you back, you start having that feeling. Or let's say you're in their presence, but they say something. They could say something very, very simple. Let's say giving somebody a compliment, right? Oh, wow, that person, they speak very well. You think to yourself, oh man, she thinks I'm dumb. She thinks I'm the worst. And this is personal, by the way. I'm telling y'all like personal stories of what was going on within me and different individuals that I've now had the opportunity to coach and talk to and train and teach. Is when you're in that type of situation, again, they're right there. They give somebody a compliment, very simple, very innocent. But to you, you believe that that is a slight against you. And that is basically them looking at that person as better than you. Again, this is all stemming from that insecurity of being left. So let's say they gave somebody who they might never be interested in a compliment. You would think to yourself, oh, that's just a compliment. But as soon as you believe it's somebody who can be a threat, you are now creating these narratives and these stories within your own head about what that means. Think about that. Now, if you are somebody who is heavily paranoid that you're going to be cheated on, every single time your partner goes to their job, you're going to be thinking in your mind, oh, they're talking to somebody. I knew it. The only reason they took this job in the first place, or the only reason they're taking so many hours is because, they're creeping behind my back. They go to the gym. See, I knew it. She wasn't working out before. All of a sudden, she's working out, or all of a sudden, he's working out. Now, all of a sudden, he's trying to get six-pack abs, blah, blah, blah. He's trying to impress somebody. They get a new cologne. Oh, I knew it. I knew it. There's somebody out there. I know they're going to somebody's house with that new cologne, trying to smell good for them. All of a sudden, they want to smell good, what they want to smell good for, right? Got a different type of makeup, got a different type of dress, whatever it is, right? We will start to project our own insecurities right onto them, creating these stories because we are unhealed. We're in a space where we are still insecure in and of ourselves. Now, we may believe that we are insecure because of the relationship or because of past relationships, but in reality, we are just experiencing our own belief about ourselves through our relationships. So if you have gone through toxic relationships, the toxicity didn't start in the relationships. It started in childhood before you ever had an intimate relationship. It started when you were unconscious of the beliefs that were being placed into you. Maybe you were in a household that, there wasn't much trust in that household, or you never felt secure. Maybe you had parental figures, whoever it was, who might have been doing their best, but weren't able to give you that full reassurance because they weren't sure of themselves. They had insecurities that they were dealing with within themselves, so they projected that onto you as a child. Now you take that on, and you believe that this is how relationships are. Maybe you saw a parent who was snooping around and sneaking around on one another or on the other, or you saw different situations that you perceived as a lack of love or a lack of consistency. And so you believe that people would just leave, or maybe you're in a situation where the parent did leave or both parents left. Maybe you came from that situation. And that makes it far more obvious to know that, man, I probably have a belief that I'm just going to be abandoned. I'm going to be left. And so if I don't do the work to change those beliefs about my deservingness, my worthiness of love, my worthiness of somebody staying within my life, my worthiness of that I deserve to be loving within me, right? Forget anybody else. It has to start from within us. When you start to truly accept that you are worthy of love in and of yourself, then and only then will you actually start to see your relationships change. Because in most cases, two people in a relationship having two different relationships. I'm going to say that again. In most cases, two people within a relationship are having two very different relationships because the relationship lives within each person's own mind. It lives in your consciousness. So if you have a consciousness that is a low vibrational, fearful, paranoid state, then that's the relationship that you're having. If somebody is an elevated, high emotional state and they see the goodness in life and they see the goodness in themselves, they feel deserving, they feel all these different aspects of self, then they're having a very different relationship. And eventually these two people have to grow apart because they don't match energetically. Maybe you met at the same place energetically at one point, but now you start to grow apart because you are changing from within. And so that's a whole different subject for a whole different time. But I really just wanted to give that visual for you guys of what it can look like when you are projecting your insecurities onto a relationship. And again, it shows up in the most sneaky of ways, in the most subtle of ways, right? It will creep into your headspace. You'll see something change in the environment. The smallest little thing moved that wasn't there, or you might step in the car and you forget that you put the seat back or you put the seat in a certain way, right? Maybe you were digging through the car looking for something. You changed the seat, you forgot. Now you're back in the car and you think to yourself, oh, I know she has somebody in this car. I never lean this far back. I lean back, but I don't lean this far back. You really start to have these conversations with yourself. And when you are unchecked in that mental game that you're playing, when you're unchecked in that back and forth that you're having with yourself, that negative self-talk, when there's no restraint on it, there's no self-awareness, it only gets worse and worse. It's a spiral effect. There's more and more momentum in that direction. Just like when you're more positive, things start to feel better and better and better. It's the very same way, obviously, with the spiral downward, which most people are very used to. They call it that downward spiral. They're just like, I'm spiraling. Most people, when they say I'm spiraling, are talking about a negative spiral downward. And what we're talking about is an emotional state of being where you are literally in your own head having negative conversations and more negative, more and more paranoid. It's getting worse and worse. First, it's, man, that looks suspicious. I wonder if they're doing something. And all of a sudden you're thinking to yourself, oh man, I knew it. She's a prostitute. Like, for real. It can go so many different ways. You can go from, he got his hair cut. He ain't got his hair cut in 3 to 4 months. Oh, okay. He got 17 other girlfriends. You will start to think all kinds of things just as projections of your own unhealed wounds. Again, those unhealed wounds at some point in time have to be healed, right? It's like if you had a physical wound and you just continue to baby it instead of nursing it, if you continue to protect it instead of healing it, if you continue to cope with it instead of going in and actually getting it cleaned up and wrapped up and taken care of properly, it's going to start to infect. It's going to start getting worse and worse, and maybe eventually you might have to amputate a part of the body because the infection got so bad. It's the same thing that happens to us emotionally. We find ourselves at first, it's not so serious, right? First, it's just a thought of paranoia. Then it becomes a thought of deep paranoia. Then it becomes a state of paranoia. Then it becomes a personality of paranoia. Now you're just a paranoid person who in every situation you're thinking somebody's doing you dirty, right? It don't even have to just be in the relationship. You're seeing it everywhere in life. Oh, I knew that person. They're looking at me and they're looking at me because they're probably talking to that person about me, or, oh, this person's trying to set me up or do me dirty. You can't even have relationships that are healthy or cohesive in any aspect of your life because you have let those thoughts, let those beliefs and those emotions go unchecked and unregulated for so long. And so maybe you found yourself in that place. Maybe you are now in a space where you are seeing more clearly. Well, that's the first step. Once you become self-aware, once you become clear about what's going on, that's the very first, and to be honest, the most important step. Because if you're not aware of what's going on and you're just trying to solve, you're solving for the wrong problem usually. Like usually people who are, again, insecure within their relationships and projecting those insecurities on their partner, they look to solve that problem by arguing or by telling their partner to do different things or be different, by controlling their partner, right? Fear leads to control. And so when an individual is insecure, they try to control the person in their life because they are afraid of losing that person. They're afraid of what may happen if that person is truly doing whatever it is that you believe that they're supposed to be doing. And so you control internal problems with external circumstances, or you try to heal internal problems, trying to fix internal problems with external solutions, and it never works. The more you tell that person to do this and do that and control them, the worse off the relationship gets. The more you're breaking the trust, the more that person is going to move away from you. Because nobody wants to be around that. Nobody wants to be controlled by another individual based on something that's not even real or that's not even true. And so again, you will find yourself doing that, or maybe you're a more internal person so you won't say anything, but you're now just taking back steps. Now you're further and further intimately from the relationship. Now you're not investing emotionally in the relationship. And basically you're just kind of scanning and scoping and looking at this person with a crooked eye, waiting for them to F up, waiting for them to do something that's against your greatest. Like you're just waiting on the situation. And in a lot of cases, you will start to manifest it because that's the energy you're projecting. You will attract those type of people all the time. Like most people who always have people cheating on them, this ain't victim blaming, victim shaming, none of that. I don't believe in cheating. I don't believe in doing something dirty like that, in doing somebody dirty like that, or even doing yourself like that. But if you find yourself in sequences of relationships where people are cheating on you constantly, it is actually stemming from a belief of self-worth or the lack thereof. It's a belief that I'm not deserving of somebody who loves me and cares about me. It's always a self-belief. Some of us may be kidding ourselves. We may lie to ourselves and say that I have so much self-worth and I love myself and self-care, hashtag self-love. But in reality, you're always fearful. You're always skeptical. You're always looking, with a paranoid eye. And all of that is coming from an insecurity from within, because you're the one having the conversation with you at the end of the day. And that's facts. And that's law. That's universal law. These are the laws of attraction, or this is the law of attraction, the law of vibration. We attract to ourselves what we are within. If we're fearful, we're going to attract fearful situations, circumstances, individuals, etc. And again, fear doesn't have to look one way. If you're somebody who is fearful that somebody's going to break your heart or somebody's going to leave you, you're going to find somebody who is fearful that always runs. Like that's how it usually works. If you are fearful of somebody controlling you, you're going to meet somebody who is fearful and is controlling. That's how that works. And so we have to become conscious, step number one, and number two, to actually start to do that internal work of changing those belief systems. Now, this is what I've devoted and dedicated my life to, is the transforming and the transcendence of these. And so if you're somebody who is truly serious about shifting yourself into a new state of belief, into a new state of consciousness, and having a different life experience within your relationship with yourself and others, which is just a byproduct of having that relationship with yourself, make sure to book an appointment with me, a one-on-one consultation. You can book one by going into the description below, click on my Calendly link, book a time, book a place, or book a time, book a day that works for us. And let's really get down to it. Let's start shifting and changing these belief systems. It doesn't have to take a lifetime. It just depends on whether or not you're willing to let go of the old. Are you willing to let go of the old stories, the self-defeating, the destructive and toxic stories, and replace them with the truth? That's all it comes down to. I appreciate you guys so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel immediately. Make sure to share this with somebody who needs it. I love you. I appreciate you. Peace.